I really didn't plan on making a lot of like coaching content necessarily this week, but the Washington Wizards have not fired Wes Unseld. They've moved him to another position. So yeah, not surprised to see that Wes Unseld is no longer in control of this team. It hasn't been good in his tenure there. Like they weren't making the playoffs or anything. It's not like they had a phenomenal roster, but they didn't have a bad roster as well. So you might say that they were underperforming. The roster was never quite able to gel and everything. I know Bradley Beal was out for times, and this year he just didn't have Bradley Beal. And we've all watched the Wizards play this year. It's been a disaster. So I'm not surprised to see Unseld go necessarily. Clearly, they like him a lot. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Wes Unseld was part of the reason that the Wizards won their only championship back in the day, back in like the 70s or something like that. So he's very beloved in the DC area and everything for that reason. For all accounts, he seems like a great dude and everything. That's why they're moving him into the front office role. They're like, he's just not capable of coaching this team. And just from like watching the team this year, you would have to probably say that that's true, even not being in the locker room. Just like the events you've seen this year of like Poole kind of doing all this goofy stuff and Kuzma doing all this goofy stuff and everything. Like the team just not being able to take itself very seriously on the court, a lot of the shot attempts they take, and just some of the goofy shit you see happen in the game. You can just tell like he doesn't have a tight grip around this team, that when you're a rebuilding team, I feel like you need to kind of have your hands on these guys. They're like young dogs, right? You got to be training them a little bit, right? And I know if Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma heard me say that, they probably wouldn't like that. But like that's what a lot of this team is, right? Maybe not those guys, but they're the ones that are kind of acting out, if you will. As of right now, the Wizards are 7-36, I believe. Yeah, 7-36. We've been giving the Pistons so much shit this year, and so has Kyle Kuzma actually, for how bad they were. The Wizards are right there with them, and I would argue the Wizards maybe have a worse roster. I'd actually argue that that's true. I think the Wizards have a worse roster than the Pistons. The Wizards have some like interesting like pieces and everything, but I don't know, the way the Pistons have kind of like tried to organize like their rotations is the weirder part to me. But you look at this Wizards team, right? And when we look at the roster, and actually let me give credit to the guy that's getting promoted. I don't know if promoted's the right word, but Brian Keefe is the interim head coach now. Now the odds of this guy sticking around probably aren't very high. I'm guessing, yeah, it says they're going to do a full offseason search. Who knows? Maybe this guy like completely like gets them going in the right direction or something, right? Really cool. The guys look like they're working hard on the court. You're getting maximum value out of them. The young players are starting to develop. Maybe. And we look at like the Bucks getting rid of their coach and bringing in a guy like Doc Rivers, which we'll talk about very briefly at the end of this, just because this is mostly a Wizards video. But this helps with continuity and stuff that you didn't go find like a Doc Rivers, and you don't need to, right? This team's bad. You don't need to go out and find that guy right now. You wait till the offseason and evaluate things, right? And see what you have in-house first. But this helps keep some continuity and everything. Hopefully this sparks something in the players too, to be like, oh dang, coach was kind of like, man, I don't even want to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to the front office. So maybe it inspires something. The team's not good regardless, but who knows? But yeah, let's take a look at this Wizards roster. All of these guys have been involved in trade rumors, unless it's like Jordan Poole, who they just won't be able to trade because of how bad he's kind of been this year. He's 16 points a game, horrible efficiency. You've seen him have some attitude problems on the court this year. His shot selection is just wild at times. He acts like he's still on the Warriors, and it's not converting. So I don't know what to make of that. Like, I really thought Jordan Poole was kind of going to come in and be a dog and everything, but I guess like none of those leadership skills that you probably witnessed in Golden State or anything transferred over to Washington, which is kind of a shame. Kuzma's obviously having like a solid season, all accounts said and everything, but I know that the Kings are like the team that are on the radar for him. I don't know what you do to get that. I'm also a little bit skeptical of like how well he fits there as well, because I just think Keegan Murray's like that dude. Like, I think he can be better than Kuzma, like, in all honesty. So I'd just rather have Keegan Murray, but I understand teams wanting to get better, and the West is extremely, like, jam-packed. I know the Mavericks are another team that have been interested, and they at least have a little bit of draft capital that they can move, and the Wizards don't have as much draft capital as, like, you would think. Remember, they didn't really get, like, picks like that for Bradley Beal or anything. They kind of just offloaded everybody. So if you can acquire some draft capital for Kuzma, I think they said they wanted 2 first-round picks. So if that's something you can get for him, I'd pull the trigger on it. Like, none of these guys are really worth keeping around. Well, I'll touch on like the 2, maybe 3 that are, but it's definitely not like Kyle Kuzma. No, you might as well trade him now. And if you're Dallas, like, and you think that Kyle Kuzma is a missing piece, then good for you. Marvin Bagley's a guy they brought in recently who he's playing well so far, right? He's playing well. He's hustling hard. This is his next chance to kind of prove something, right? So that's awesome. You experiment with Marvin Bagley a little bit. You're not paying anybody else. Keep him around, see what happens. Denny Advia, like, just... We've talked about this a lot on the channel. The Wizards keep drafting these dudes that don't have high ceilings, and one of them is Advia, where he's going to be what he is. He's getting us like 13 points a game right now. He shoots solid from 3. He gets like a good amount of rebounds and everything. He gets a good amount of assists. Like, he doesn't make a ton of mistakes, which that's awesome. You need guys like that and everything, but, you know, if the right offer came around, I'd say you could probably look to move him. But we like Denny and stuff like that. Tyus Jones is probably a guy that they should look to move. Not really a point in having him on the team right now. I don't think it's one of those things either where it's like Bojan for the Pistons and you're like, we'd rather just have him to keep the culture up. Like, Tyus isn't that good of a player. Like, very quality basketball player in the NBA, can be a starter for some teams, right? I know that he kind of disappears in the playoffs a little bit because his game is pretty predictable, but he's super reliable, assist to turnover ratio god, right? But there's a ton of teams that I think would love to have Tyus. I actually think before the Heat went and got Rozier that he would have been a decent option for them, and I don't know how teams like the Timberwolves or like the Suns, who could really use him, actually make a trade to make that work, but somebody would want Tyus Jones out there. I think Corey Kispert's a really interesting player. I think his defense has greatly improved this year. Obviously, he's a more than capable 3-point shooter. What are we at this year? We're at 37% on 5 attempts a game. That's great, right? If he had better players around him, I'd be willing to bet that that'd be even a little higher. Sneaky athletic, too. We're not going to say like super athletic, but sneaky athletic, right? He's got some low-key posters in his career, so shout out Corey Kispert. Daniel Gafford, kind of like a step-down version of like the Mark Williams, Clint Capella, stuff like that. Does his role and everything. Probably best as a backup, but starter for now. Koulibaly's where it gets interesting, right? Koulibaly, the younger dude on the team, showing a lot of potential, shows a lot of like we'll say like general basketball like awareness and everything, and he's learning the game very quickly. So all these foreign guys do, because they're actually teaching it to them over there. So I think that's an interesting thing to watch going forward. Landry Shamit's an asset he's just a flamethrower, right? He's just a dude that can light it up from anywhere. What is he shooting right now? 40% on only 3.5, but he's not getting a ton of burn this year. So that's an option that you can maybe trade. And the rest of the roster is just kind of, Johnny Davis ain't it. Sorry, y'all, that you picked him. Patrick Baldwin Jr. is not going to be anything. I hate to tell y'all that, but that's not going to be it. So if you're the Wizards, right, things are rough right now. If I were a Wizards fan, I'd probably be rooting for obviously finding a new coach and everything and finding out how you can start to get the culture right on the basketball court. But I'd be trying to move assets as much as I can, man, because this team doesn't click. They don't get along and stuff. I'm sorry that you're stuck with Jordan Poole. Hopefully he figures it out. But I'll be curious to see how the rest of this season kind of figures out. Does this team just kind of roll over and quit, or what happens? And, who do they target in the draft then? Because it's not really an elite class by any means. Maybe they get lucky and win the lottery and they can go get like Sarr or something like that. I watched some clips of Sarr like just yesterday, was it? Some new film of him, and I'm like, I'm starting to buy into this dude even more. Like, I already liked him. He was already my favorite prospect in the draft, but I don't know, man. I just like dudes that got that dog in them, and they can use literally every position right now. So anybody will work. Alrighty, then just a 1-minute touch on this while I have you guys here. Doc Rivers, 3.5 years, because he's only getting a half year this year, $40 million contract. I didn't see this coming. I kind of figured it'd be like, hey, prove it the rest of the year, see how the team responds. But dang, Milwaukee must be swimming in that money, man. They're paying 3 coaches right now. They're paying Griffin. They're still paying Bud because they let him go early, and now they're doing Doc. And Doc, we heard me talk about Doc. I think he's probably a good leader and everything. And maybe that's all you need with this super talented team. I think he's gonna bring some intensity to the team, but as far as coaching wise and X's and O's and adjustments, we all know what's happened to him in the playoffs before, and I don't think we can ignore that. I know he's won a championship, and that's awesome. But I don't think we can ignore a lot of the stuff that's happened between the Clippers and Sixers, man. I don't think we do. So I'm a little bit surprised to see them give him another big contract, but maybe that's the only way they could entice him. But I don't know, y'all. I feel like there might have been better names out there then if that was the case. But just an odd business decision and just wanted to touch on it. But hey, Wizards fans, let me know what you think of this. You're probably just like, who the hell cares at this point? And I guess Bucks fans as well. Are you cool with having Doc on the team for the next couple of years? Let me know. But in the meantime, thanks you guys, and we'll see y'all later.